Let's get started. So the regulars will know this. Thank you for your patience, and the new folks, because there's always a handful. We see the data every time. We love to make sure you know where you are and what's going on. Let me tell you a little bit about the Stewardship Network before things get awesome with our special guests. So the Stewardship Network, we are an environmental ecological stewardship nonprofit, 501c3. We've been at this 20 years. A lot of it behind the scenes. So some people are surprised to know we've been at it for 20 years, but yes, we've been doing this. We've been doing well. We'll talk a little more in a moment about the TSN member communities, but they are really the crux of this whole model. These place-based groups that we support on the back end. Rob and I are both tangentially musically involved, and we talk about the Stewardship Network kind of like a record label, and all these little groups are the bands that really matter, and the label's just trying to make things easier for them. So we got 20 active. The roster changes over time, but 20 active member communities now, and everything's going good there. And then, yeah, if you have a great time today, and we hope you do, we hope you'll be back second Wednesday of every month. I can say that with confidence. Well into the future, we are booked several episodes out, and we've been doing this for 15 years, so you can set it to your calendar and you won't have to worry about it later. Our mission, I sort of hinted at it before, we connect, equip, and mobilize people and organizations to care for land and water in their communities. Typical mission statement, lots of layers there, big compound sentence. But fundamentally, that record label idea is one of the ways to sort of stick on it. We help the helpers. So let's talk a little bit about these connect, equip, and mobilize ideas, and it'll make a little more sense. These are the communities. Here's one of our recent pictures from the Spring Challenge from our friends Alex and crew at the Southwest by Southwest corner SYSMA. This is the hands-on stewardship that you typically affiliate with us, and we're proud to be there. So these are the folks on the front line, these are the bands, and we're in the back end making sure that they have the volunteers they need, they can get their registration signups, that they're being celebrated appropriately and supported. So they are the folks that are really doing this. These bullet points are largely just to say good things are happening. The way we like to think about it is the reason it's place-based is because they have the level of investment that no one else could match, and they have the level of local knowledge that no one else could match. We firmly believe that you know what your land and water needs better than anyone else does. So we just try to really lean into the local model and say, take care of your own backyard. And if we all do that, we're in great shape. The equip pillar is this idea. This is my favorite part, the label part. This is the idea of what do you have to do but don't love to do? And can we do it for you? So that takes different forms for every member community. Some of them use a lot of our services. Some of them are really light. But we're a back end. We know this stuff. I don't. I will out myself as a communications person. We were just talking about with the team here. I just came over from the video game industry. Very different situation. I was a marketer for Xbox over in Seattle. But the science team, which is most of TSN, knows exactly what to do to help the stewardship in action. And I'll help them with their communication stuff, so everyone's chipping in. And then finally, connect. So when you have been doing this for 20 years and you've got all these groups over time and all the people that pass through those groups, and every one of these groups is a group of groups, so the nesting doll gets ridiculous very quickly, you learn a lot. And TSN has learned a ton over 20 years of doing this. And that's why it only took 5 years into the process for Lisa to realize that what at the time was a novel idea, now we all have video meetings booked all day, but the idea of a webcast was a big deal 15 years ago and pretty weird and rare. And we've been doing this for a long time because sharing this knowledge is absolutely on mission for us. So we do this in a bunch of cool ways. A lot of the programs that TSN conducts itself, not through its member communities, fit into this pillar. So the Stewardship Network Conference, more news on that coming up soon. I'll just leave that as a tease. The Spring Challenge was really successful this year, 36,000 collected hours of stewardship, really stoked. And these webcasts. So all of this stuff happens. Steward Circle was last night. I hear it was a good one. This is the part where we try to keep you in the field as much as possible doing your work. And then when you're not in the field, how can we be sharing so that the next field season is better? Okay, thank you for sitting through that. You're very kind. Let's talk about, we are setting up our guests here outside the box. Cool topic. This idea of how do we, obviously we're only as strong as we can get new people into these systems. How do we keep people engaged at all levels? And we've got a group here that does this really well. We've worked with them before and we're excited to have them back. This is Nicole Ferguson. on your right. If you're having the same experience I am, and Courtney Prout on the left. Courtney Prout plays Pokemon, and I'm just going to out that. I also have a lot of Pokemon in my house, thanks to my son, but we were talking about Zelda. Doesn't matter. Point is, cool people. They are from the Formar Nature Preserve and Arboretum, Genesee County Parks and Recreation. Team, we're so happy to have you. Take it away.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having us here. We've had the pleasure of presenting at the the Stewardship Network conference in the past. And we're going to share our screen and have our presentation up here. If we can find the right one. I think that's it. Maybe. Yes. All right. So one of the things that we really pride ourselves on is thinking outside the box when it comes to not only stewardship, but getting people outdoors as a whole. And so today we're going to talk about kind of our three-step process that we think about as we're going through creating programming and opportunities to try and create stewards in our community. And we're going to just start by, let's see if this will work. I think it's going to work. Maybe. Telling you a little bit about ourselves. So my name is Nicole Ferguson. I'm the lead park naturalist here at Formar with the Genesee County Parks. And we really believe in this model where if you can get the children young and at younger ages and create this opportunity where you're making connections with the natural world, that will turn and create these memories that people keep on coming back to and create stewards for the future. And Courtney and myself consider ourselves young nature lovers. So here's some pictures of us enjoying nature when we were young, and when we're still young. You know, we consider ourselves Peter Pans. We never grew up. And nature nerds for life. So I'll let Courtney introduce herself and let you know what she does here at Formar.
Right, like Nicole said, we really try to focus on creating those experiences that make people want to care for their environment, right? So I'm the environmental education outreach coordinator. I take the fun stuff that we do here at the Nature Preserve out into the community. And really, we try to make ourselves available for all ages, all stages. So we go to public schools, private schools, we'll go to assisted living facilities, we'll go to senior centers, schools for students with special needs, and stuff like that. So we really try to incorporate that and that belief into everything we do here at the preserve and especially out in the community.
And the outreach component we found has been throughout my 10 years here has been grown in its importance, knowing that not everybody can come directly to us, bringing that opportunity to them in a space that they feel safe, usually ends up with people coming to Formar and feeling like this is another home for them too. So reaching out to bring them back and get them connected to nature. Well, they already did this kind of for you guys. One of the things that we're going to be talking about today, so I just want you to be thinking about it. We are going to do a chat waterfall where you guys are, we're going to tell us like who you are and what you do. But we were able to kind of look in the chat and get a feel of who's in the room today. But one thing we want you to think about is who are the audiences that you reach and who are the audiences that you want to be reaching. And so our whole goal today is hopefully to have some good conversation in our little Google Slides that we've created and kind of think outside the box to create new ideas for programs and opportunities to get people into your green spaces and kind of share what we are doing here at Formar. So just to give you a little background, Formar is part of the Genesee County Parks. Genesee County Parks is the largest park system in the state of Michigan by acreage. And so we have lots of different opportunities. It says 11,000 on here, but we've now taken over managing the city of Flint parks, which is 70 parks within the city of Flint. So our reach has grown within our community. And last night I heard a statistic that The Genesee County Parks now manages 91% of the parkland in our community. So we have this huge reach. And so to just stay at Formar, which is 383 acres, would be a shame. So having people like Courtney and our outreach team allows us to reach into these different spaces, habitats, and be able to bring stewards from that community that's into those spaces. This is just a little map of the many different locations that you can find here in Genesee County that we help manage. And then our vision here is that parks bring people together. And so it's this interconnectedness between our green spaces and the people in our community, and making sure that we have quality recreational opportunities and that we're preserving those natural resources for the future. And that means that we've got lots of opportunities to try and reach out and bring people back. Formar, 383 acres of that park property is where we're housed and where we're calling in from today. And here we've got about 8 to 9 miles of hiking trails, so lots of spaces to get out and walk and explore. Many different types of gardens, including our native butterfly house. So this is a space where we're encouraging native pollinators and teaching about all different ways that we can try and encourage that in our own backyard. We also have our visitor center. At our visitor center, we see over 40,000 visitors each year, and a great space for people to kind of get that first step and feel comfortable in getting connected to the natural world. And we're going to be talking about our treehouse later, but we also have a treehouse classroom. And what I want us to stop and kind of chat about is this theory and this overarching piece of Formar. So at Formar, we have lots of different components, but the one thing that between our horticulture team and our outreach team and our in-house education team, this overarching theme of education is really key to us. Whether that's designing a garden, our goal is that we're showing people in our community ways that they can then take that, what they're seeing here at Formar, and bring that to their backyards or to their other spaces in the community. Whether that's through our nature programming, our grounds, our visitor center, or stewardship and volunteerism. Education is really the key to all of those components. So as we started to think about this presentation, and so we do lots of different presentations on getting people connected to the natural world, we thought about, okay, well, what is stewardship? And when we found this description, we really felt like it was fitting, and that the responsible planning and management of the resources. And when we think about what we're doing is we're working towards people feeling that they can responsibly plan and manage their resources in their own homes, in their own yards, in their own green spaces, in their parks here in the Genesee County community. And we thought, well, who are the stewards that we want to be reaching? And really, Courtney hit it when she was talking about all the different groups that we go to with our educational components. It's really everyone. We want to try and encourage stewardship and this mindful thinking around the environment within all the people that we reach. That's everyone in our community. So how do we get them there? We say, well, just like everybody else, we could just Google it. And what does Google say? Well, obviously, here's some ways that we can promote it. But we know, obviously, you guys are with the Stewardship Network. We know that by doing simple things like this, it might give you that instant, like, okay, well, I've ditched the plastic water bottles, and I'm really working towards these things. But a lot of times, that's not a long-term impact that we're making on people's lives. So how can we take this idea and not just Google it? How can we try and create long-term change in the people that we're reaching? Well, this article that I found is really great in talking about that connection. And it starts with a connection to nature, and feeling connected to nature then leads to people being stewards of nature and involving these sustainable practices and environmental conscious minds within everything that they're doing within their lives. So it starts with a connection, but we know it's not that easy, right? But we know that if we can make people connected, they're visiting the nature center, they're feeling a connection to that, they're creating memories that if they love nature, they'll care for it. If they care for nature, they'll protect it. And one of the books that we read to a lot of our students that come is Dear Children of Earth. It's a great story where the earth is speaking to all of the creatures and asking them what you can do. And it leads back to, if we know about it, we can love it. If we love it, we can care for it. If we care for it, we protect it, just like we would do our own children, grandchildren, and families and friends. But the struggle is real, both kid and adult edition. We know that as we're going forward, the amount of time people are spending outdoors and naturally making those connections is becoming limited and more limited. The amount of time spent in front of screens is increasing. So we really have to start thinking outside the box and how we're going to reach out to bring people back in. And these are just some statistics that we pulled off on how much people are really spending within the outdoors. So we've got to really be mindful of how we are going to be creating these opportunities. So today, as we were thinking about how do we really think about creating each of these components and how we are going to try and encourage and get people to action, we thought about it in 3 ways. So as we're developing programming and place-based locations within our nature preserve here and within our park system, we think about it as these 3 steps. First, we want to introduce people to natural world. Then once we've got them there, we want to give them some education and then take that education and transform it into action. With the mindfulness that we're meeting people where they're at. We know that some people are already coming in, maybe they already have an introduction to nature. They're excited and they want to jump right into education. Some people may have already had introduction and education and they're ready to take action. But we have to figure out who these people are, where they're at in their steps, and then from there, be able to give them opportunities to be able to expand and extend. So today, our main goal is to kind of tell you some of the components of each of those that we're doing here at our nature preserve, with the goal of hopefully giving you guys some inspiration, but also opening up the platform to say, what are you guys doing? What can we steal? Because we believe there's no new ideas. We're just all sharing ideas to make this this world a little bit better. Okay. So as we're looking in the first steps, the first step being introduction. So really it's how are we hooking people? How are we bringing them in to think about and to make a connection with our park or with our green space? First, and then a lot of that is grounded in placemaking. And we heard about that right in the very intro, that creating a place for people to feel connected to is one of the first steps in getting and having them become a steward. So we're going to go through 3 of our opportunities that we have that we've utilized to try and get people here. How do we get them in the door? And so leading back to all of that marketing piece. So one of the things that we connected with and with all of these introductions, it's making a connection with somebody in our community and then taking that connection and trying to see who is their audience and how we can we convince them to also be our audience. So we work with geocachers within Genesee County, and our geocaching team brought to us this idea of adventure labs. And I'm not sure if anybody else uses adventure labs. So I'll explain a little. When they explained it to me, I do a little bit of Pokemoning, not as much as Courtney. But adventure labs to me was like the kind of the adult, and not that Pokemon is not adult, but grasping more, bringing in a different base of people who are doing kind of a Pokemon Go type idea. You get to a location and a question opens up. You have to answer the question based on what you're seeing, and it gives you a little, you got it? And there might be 5, 10, 15 of these locations that you have to go to. All based within geocaching. So they already had this background system that they were able to use to make this all happen. So our geocachers came to us and said, do you guys want to help us create an adventure lab? And for this year, for Parks and Rec Month, we partnered with the other different park systems in our community, Grand Blanc Parks and Rec and Davison Parks and Rec, to encourage people to visit 10 different new locations, kind of off the beaten path locations within our park system and their park systems. We called this year Explore Your Parks Challenge. And with that, we were able to reach over 100 different groups that came out. Now, a group may be one person, it could be a whole family that's visiting the park and answering questions about that park location. And overwhelmingly, we had a lot of feedback of, oh, I've never been to this park location. I didn't know this existed. So it was that first introduction piece. So if you're looking for a way to introduce either people who are already doing geocaching adventure labs to your park or to your green space, this can be a great way to do that. But the one thing that we've turned to is that when we gave out awards for people who maybe were the first to find, or were the people who were the quickest to find, or the top 6, or we did a grand prize winner, all of our awards were then also placed in trying to convince people to, again, go to more park locations. So they got boat launch passes or ORV passes, or were encouraged to go to different park locations, or over the course of being closed down for the pandemic and COVID, we wrote our own field guide. So they received a field guide to encourage them to explore the natural world. So the items that we were sharing with them were another encouragement for them to get out and explore their parks even more.
And we do that in other ways too. Like if folks visit our visitor center here at Formar, we have backpacks full of different equipment that they could go out and more fully explore the trails. We have activity guides in there. We have walking sticks, yoga mats. So we really want to enrich folks' experience so they develop a connection with our place and make it their place. So they then want to care about it and, volunteer, help us, help take care of this place.
And we call those our discovery backpacks. And so, and that really does encourage, especially families, to feel more comfortable exploring, or if they don't have those pieces, it might be a chance for them to try out binoculars or snowshoes when they didn't have that opportunity to start with. So again, giving them not only a place to come to, but something to do when they get here. The second kind of introduction that we wanted to highlight was within our community. A lot of times what we'll do is we'll look and see, okay, what's trending? What's a new project that we see that's going on? And one of the things here in the Flint community is the Flint Public Art Project. And if you haven't been to Flint recently, definitely come and definitely check that out. There's an adventure lab that you could do to see some of these murals. But there are over 100 plus murals throughout the city of Flint and Genesee County that you can visit from muralists all over the United States and world, really. And so we, in 2019, when this was kind of starting to kick off, we reached out because we were looking at how can we make our visitor center more of an attraction, more of a place, a reason why people want to get here, so that then we can interact with them to get to them to the next step of education. And we reached out to this gentleman who happened to have grown up right down the road and now is a very well-known graffiti artist and muralist here in our area and throughout the United States. This is Kevin Burdick. And we reached out to him because we saw his ability to kind of capture what the natural world looked like and really highlight different creatures, whether that's insects, birds. He's done some really great mammals, but also the wildflowers. And take that imagery and be able to tell a story with it. And so he came in and sat down and we started to lay out kind of what do we want our visitor center to look like. And from those conversations, he brought us back we call this one of our pollinator garden murals. And he came back with this idea. And from that, we've now added 2 additional murals and is now turning into that our whole visitor center is going to be done in murals by Kevin Burdick. And people come just to see his mural. So it's another way to look at what's going on in your community and then draw people in utilizing that.
And it's a great talking point too, because the mural kind of like breaks down the wall and we can point out specific sections. Like for example, in the picture, you might see the bloodroot blooming or the common milkweed blossoming. And then further on, you can probably notice the jewelweed. So those are all great talking points and a great way just to get folks interested in not only the mural, but then the chance that they have to actually go outside and see these things. Oh, you want to see bloodroot? Check out trail number 4. Or you want to see X? Check out this trail. Or you want to see Y? Whatever it is. It's a great way, like Nicole said, it's an introduction. It's something to hook them and get them further into the space.
And our goal is always, we have them here. Now, what's the next step? How can we get them to want to go a little further? Because a lot of times people will come to our visitor center and they'll just come to the visitor center or they'll just stay on the paved path. So trying to get people to feel excited and feel like it's safe to go off the path. And I just like to highlight this because a lot of people, if they know Kevin or if they've seen the Flint murals, the big reason why we ended up choosing Kevin and reaching out to him is because he did the giant crane that's on the side of one of the buildings downtown that they use for kind of their postcard of the Flint murals. And he just is a pretty phenomenal human who's very excited about being connected and being a steward and being able to help in his own way. And so finding unique ways to spread the message of stewardship. And then finally, which was presented on some of the pictures that we put out there in the title, is finding a unique way could also mean just kind of falling into being on some cool opportunities. So back 6 years ago, and actually like 8 years ago when we first started, we reached out to the Treehouse Masters. We really didn't think that they would contact us back, and we just happened to pique their interest. And 3 years after we had actually sent them information, we had them call. And so one of the best introductions that we just happened to have is our Treehouse Master Treehouse. So people watch the show, they feel a natural connection to Formar, and then they come out and they visit the treehouse. From there, we can then start to give them education. The real reason that I love this project is it's not just because we were on TV, and not just because it brought so many people to the park, but because this project really was a full circle of that introduction, education, action. And it's because of these kids and community members that were so excited about building a treehouse. So when they came to me in 2013 and said, Miss Nicole, it would be amazing if we could have a treehouse on the property, I didn't say no. And so one of the big things that Courtney and I pride ourselves on is exploring unique ideas and the outside the box idea and having a yes attitude. So one of the things they said was, well, how would you make that happen? And from that, they started to create pictures. And one of the kids knew how to do like CAD and made like a computer program of what he would see a treehouse looking like. They pitched it to our director at the time, Shark Tank style. she set aside the first $5,000 to go based on her shooting ideas and things back at them. And then they created a video, which the video is linked here, and this whole presentation will be available for you guys to see after if you'd like, and steal any of the ideas from. But the video really was them just reaching out and saying, hey, Formar is a huge community. This is like a big backyard, and we would love it if somebody built a tree house here. Now, they weren't really reaching out to the treehouse masters. They were reaching out to the community and saying, we know that what we have here is amazing, and we want to make sure that we can continue to add really cool features to that. A treehouse is what we would like. The treehouse masters saw that, and from their introduction, they came to Formar and were excited about the park. Their education, they were coming to programs that we offered in our education field. They were able to put into action using these videos and then create a project that was then turned into a treehouse master thing. So using that model of introduce them, give them education, and then tell them, yes, you can, we were able to get this treehouse. So one of the big things with, we go back real quick, with introduction is that we always want to break down, what are we looking for as we're doing this? So introduction takeaways. So who are the audience that you want to reach out to? What's your audience? Who aren't you reaching? Who do you want to try and bring in? Look in your community for trends or connections. So find partners, because they probably have an audience that you guys can share. So the more partners that we have, the more people that we know we're reaching. So we consider ourselves the partner queens. Like if there's a group out there, we'll find a way to partner with you and make it work.
Absolutely. Even if you if programming or event planning isn't your strong suit, but you want to highlight pieces of your green space, you could maybe contact your local, I don't know, Trout Unlimited, or your chapter of the Wild Turkey Federation, or your watershed coalition, if that's a thing in your neighborhood, and see if you can't organize some sort of thing at your place to get more folks into your park or green space.
And what we found by saying yes and being excited and having our passion show was that people were excited to come here, and that at the time we're not the ones leading the education, we're letting those people's passions flow. And a lot of times they have certain grant deliverables or organizational deliverables that they need to be able to give to the community. If you have a space for them to be able to do that, always ask, because people are out there waiting for you to be able to give them an opportunity too. So we definitely encourage you to have that yes attitude and always ask for partnerships. And then making sure that you're connecting with your groups and in your community so that you can share audiences. Again, finding those partners and then finding groups that connect to each other too. So maybe you're the connector and connecting those groups, and then introduce them. That's right. That's the spot, right? Find them, find partners that go with them, introduce them to your green spaces. So one of the things that we want to do today and then into the future is we'll have a link that we're sharing, and I'm going to ask Bob or Rob to go ahead and put that in the chat, where we're going to just have some stop and things. So what's an introduction or hook that you want to use? What's something that maybe you were inspired, or maybe that you already use to try and get people to come to your stewardship opportunities or get to your green space? And is there something new you'd like to try? So inside that, it's a Google slide. You should have the ability to go on in there, and I'm just going to try and bring that up really fast if I can, so you can just see it. I don't know how to switch from things.
Stop screen sharing and you should be able to find the link.
Oh,
do you have it? Oh, hi.
Hey. Wrong thing.
No matter how many of these we do, we always have Zoom reset. It's always a struggle.
There we go. So in here, what we'd like is throughout this time, feel free to put any of your ideas in here. So introduction ideas, add anything in here where you're thinking about here's the hooks, or here's the ideas that I want to do to try and introduce people to my green space. And with the ultimate goal that this will be a working document that we can all go back to and utilize each other's ideas to try and encourage more stewards to come into our facilities. So this will be, you can come in here. We're going to have some stop and things, but we won't come back to share this again. But these ideas of introduction, education, action, and then what are you already doing that's working so that we can be, again, sharing those ideas. All right, now we can go back to the other one. No, yes, there. Awesome. So we're going to go into education. And so when we think of education, really the way we try to break it down is once we've got them there, they're in their green space, they're asking for, what can I do next? What opportunities do you have for me? We want to provide them with different ways and modes that they feel comfortable in getting engaged with your organization, getting engaged with your green space, getting engaged with your stewardship opportunities. So it could be an active educational opportunity. We'll go into what an active educational opportunity might look like, but really it's when we're face to face with somebody. That could be through virtual platforms too, but you're there to help answer those questions. You're there to help guide maybe some of their new thoughts or answer questions that they may have about things that are going on. We like to provide passive education, so things like signage or opportunities for them to explore. So maybe it's even a nature playscape where they're using outside the box thinking, but you're not there to guide it. They're utilizing tools that you've set there for them to be able to do.
Like our garden exploration space and our butterfly house. Those are great examples of passive education because it's all set. All they have to do is walk into the garden exploration space or the butterfly house and there's an experience, right? So they could take pictures, they could look at the different flowers, which are labeled, they could use an app to try to figure out what kind of butterflies, or they could stop in and get one of our brochures that has all the different butterflies in it, or they could go into our garden and we have an activity station where they could pick up a trowel and just start weeding if they wanted to, or we have knee pads and they can get closer to any of the beds. So those are great opportunities.
And then finally, one of the things that we've worked towards is then having this take home, something where they have opportunities that they're getting to take something home and continue that education while they're at home. And so we're going to go into each of these components. And the goal of our education is we're going to try and reach out to, again, multiple audiences. Our goal is to try and reach everyone. We want to see all ages, all stages, all ability levels that we're able to have creating these memories. And then we call it sticky education. How can we get something stuck inside their brain where they're like, I have this memory, I have this connection to Formar. I have this connection to the Genesee County Parks. I have this connection to nature. And because of that connection, I'm going to care for it. I'm going to protect it.
And we do a lot of the active and the take home out in the community with outreach, not as much signage, but we still can do some of those passive activities at community events and just kind of be in the background and be ready to slip some of the take home pieces to them, across the table. So they still have that little seed planted in their head. They're like, oh yeah, Formar, I think I'll go there.
So education. Well, now when we think of active education, we're doing all different types of things. And if you want to see our whole list of programs, you can go to geneseecountyparks.org/calendar. Feel free to steal and ask questions about any activity that we do. We'd love to share all of our things, and we'd love to see you guys do those kind of things in your own park systems. We definitely are the proponent of everything. We would love to share everything and see it be done multiple times. So we have preschool programming, we have pop-up programming, which is another, I would consider an educational introduction to what we do, where it's really free form. People come, we have a pop-up of all different types of activities. Maybe it's themed around amphibians and we're talking about the frog and toad DNR survey. And we're focused on trying to talk about habitat restoration with frogs and toads. But we're doing it in a way that feels very like, hey, see this frog and toad? It makes them feel very connected to it. And then also that it's not too overwhelming as they're first coming in. But then we might have people that want to go a little deeper. So we might do things like our phenology walk and talks, where they can ask lots of questions about what's going on in the natural world right now, with our educators that are able to give them that deeper dive. And then, of course, we're always thinking about our pollinators and our habitat restoration. So we have opportunities like our plant sale, but with our plant sale, making sure that, again, we're making that partnership, and we have our plant sale nursery hosts, whether that's East Michigan Native Plants or Designs by Nature are the two that we utilize, and I'll show those later, to be able to do some education so that people can ask those deeper questions like, I want to have native plants, but which ones are going to be the best to attract monarchs? Which ones are going to be the best to attract our native pollinators, and so on?
Yeah, that introduction and that education piece comes in to kind of support that. It's super important for that sticky experience, the one that really kind of sticks with them and carries them through to the last step.
And so I like to just kind of give my synopsis of when I think of sticky education. This color, I always say, this color reminds me of my childhood, and both traumatically, but also a memory that I think of fondly. So when I think of this color, I think of playing in the pond. I think of frogs. I think of turtles. I think of education. And I think of how this color got in my eye, because a big thing of mud hit me. And from that idea, I think of how can I recreate those opportunities where kids get to play in the mud, kids get to have these opportunities to make these natural connections. And we created International Mud Day at our state. International Mud Day is a national holiday or event that you can participate in. So we created a mud pit, we have mud painting, we have a big sprinkler, but all ages, all stages love to play in the mud. And what it does is it creates this opportunity that might not be available to people, and that we're recreating our memories as well. So those educational opportunities are really important to try and connect and bring them in. The other idea is also that we live in a virtual world. So creating virtual opportunities and outreach opportunities like Courtney spoke of is so important for us to be able to try and meet people where they feel comfortable.
Absolutely. And even though screen time is up and outside time is down, we try to keep our videos like bite-sized and digestible. So it gives folks that education to be able to feel safe or comfortable outside in their green spaces.
100%. And always in all of our videos, encouraging or adding an activity in that will connect them and make them want to go outdoors. So passive, we think about signage. And so we've been part of several different signage projects through the different parks that we work in. One of those signage projects is at Max Brandon Park in the city of Flint, where we're trying to connect both to the city's natural history that's going on in this park, but also connect to the fact that there's a mile loop that people go on. There's also a huge wetland restoration project that people were asking questions like, well, why did you cut this down? What am I seeing in here? Why is it only wet during different seasons? So we were able to utilize the signage because we weren't there. It's not at our nature preserve. We don't have educators there every day to be able to provide this passive education so that people who are asking these questions regularly had an opportunity to find out what was going on in their park that they loved. We also had here at Formar this need for signage, but we knew that what we were trying to convey was changing. So maybe this year we're focused on pollinators, and we want to make sure that we have that opportunity. We worked with our local college and their design lab to be able to create these big giant turtles, and that front panel can be changed out with whatever information we want. We call them our semi-permanent trail signage. And from that, we were able to then put signs in all different locations and change it year by year, and create some really cool educational opportunities where we put a comic book that we write ourselves here at Formar with the help of Randy Zimmerman, who is the local cartoon artist, around conservation topics. And so those comic books are really our next step. We talk about those comic books. They're part of our treehouse story. They're part of what we send home with people. So that's our take home edition. So creating something that people can take with them and continue that education. Maybe it's a comic book. One of the ones that we really love is our Monarch's Tale, where we're really encouraging people to explore monarch watch and creating monarch habitats and pollinator habitats through a way that they can share with their families, or if you're just a comic book lover like we are, you can take those home and read through. And so it's putting that in their hands and then giving them a way to take home that education.
And there's links to all of our comics web versions. So if you do download the link for this webcast, you can or the presentation rather, you can get it yourself.
Yep. So each
Or
of
come
these
up
are
here to
linked.
Formar.
Yeah, we'll give you copies. So education takeaways. What are your educational topics that you want to share? And then how can you share them in multiple modes? So as an active, a passive, and a take-home opportunity, knowing that you have people that are coming to you in all different forms. So again, we have that area where you can share and think about those things now or after the presentation. And then finally, action. So a lot of times I love action and I want to skip right to action, but I scare people away. It's really the thing.
Us both.
Us both. And so we want people to take action, but we get them here, but we didn't do the work to get them feeling safe and comfortable and where they feel like they want to take action naturally. So really action to us is that definition of stewardship. So we have a couple different ways that we utilize taking action here. Of course, we have stewardship volunteer days. We work with our local SISMA, and really when I started doing stewardship volunteer days, that's when I met Lisa, probably about 8 or 9 years ago, and she reached out to us and said, how can the Stewardship Network support you and help you and create and starting these stewardship volunteer days, especially around invasive species. Since then, we've gotten our SISMA that's closer to us, and we've been able to now work directly with Jessica Albinson at the Conservation District to be able to really have an expert on hand to show the tools and the opportunities. So again, when we get to this point, we are always looking for partners to be on hand to really give that next level of education where they're focused on this key component. Same thing with once we're removing those invasives, people want to know what are they planting in their space. So we do a lot of work with our volunteer days and is planting and replanting natives. And we work with different native plant growers to be able to do that. This is a group of Girl Scouts designing and putting in a monarch way station at their school that we help support through one of their intersessions. So again, this doesn't have to happen right at Formar for us. We want to do this where we're connecting to our community and we're providing these opportunities. So if that means us going to them and reaching out, that to us is the exact same as them coming to us.
And we especially like it when we go out into the community and show them simple ways that they could add to or take things from their own green space to increase biodiversity and reduce invasive species populations.
We are really strong in dedicated into citizen science at Formar. We have multiple different projects that we participate in. These are just a few of those. So some of them are national projects like Monarch Watch and eBird. Some of them are more close to us, like the Michigan Bluebird Society. We also are very connected in pretty much all of the programs of the Flint River Watershed Coalition. So we consider that as much a program of our park system. Our park system is most of the land next to the Flint River. And if you've heard anything about things that are happening in the Flint River, just as of the last few months, there's been a chemical spill. And so part of our mission is to work with them to be able to do stewardship and monitor and check on the safety of the river. We also do a lot of kayaking programming. And then one of the key programs that I love with them is inclusive kayaking. So encouraging people who may have any sort of a disability or be a senior to feel comfortable getting on the water and making those connections with nature. And then of course, bread and butter. We love our young people. And this last year, we're now connected with one of our closest schools, Kersley. in creating a citizen science day every year, where they're looking at climate change and how they can make change around climate change in taking that into action. So we had people encouraging bug eating to reduce some of our climate change issues, writing stories for younger students. Just a great opportunity for kids to be helping kids.
And if you're not super into the environmental education realm, you could visit places like the National Environmental Education Foundation. Right now, their Climate Superstars challenge is up. If you have a group of middle schoolers that you think would be into some action pieces, they have a whole list of things that you have to do. And they're super easy to implement, and it's all written down. You just got to sign up. So that's NEEF. Check it out, Google it. I think it's a great little toe dip into the EE world.
And then finally, our Bio Blitz, which is kind of like where we take all of our citizen science and throw it into one day and introduce students kindergarten all the way through 12th grade to citizen science, to the outdoor careers, to stewardship. Students that come, and this year we have over 20 classrooms, over 25 different organizations that are participating. So if you're interested, on September 29th, we have our Bio Blitz, and we're always looking for more presenters and people who are passionate about sharing their knowledge. Or if you're just interested in doing something similar, it's a full day dedicated to students getting outdoors, doing hikes and doing inventory of different species, depending on the group that they're with. They're going to hear presentations about people's careers and jobs and how this could be something that they could do into the future. And then, of course, meeting live animals, because we know naturally animals tend to be a nice bridge to getting kids and adults into the natural world. But again, this is our thing that we love, is this is students learning alongside scientists. We all know we're just kind of big kids ourselves, but it means it's just a priceless opportunity. Here's some pictures from that. So again, we have the sharing out. So if there are the ways that you're taking action, one of the things we just wanted to say is that if there's a way that a project that you're looking at, what we'd like to say is, like, in there is we want to fight this. What's an outside the box way that I could think of it? And again, we don't believe in no's. We believe in yes, how. And we think outside of how, okay, what the natural people would say, okay, well, I don't think that could work because, or I've tried this before. We always try to think, okay, well, how could we make it work? And then always thinking both ways. So you might have people starting at introduction and taking it to action, or you might already know what you want your action to be, but you've got people at introduction, so you need to think backwards as you're going through and providing these opportunities. And then again, meeting people where they're at. I have two real quick stories. As we were putting this together, you think about the theory, like, hey, I just bought a red beetle, and I never see red beetles, and now I see them everywhere. Well, these opportunities and this idea of introduction, education, action just keep popping up. Asia, who's here on, I'm not sure if it's your right or your left, I should have circled her. Right. On your right, on the far right, is part of our new environmental leadership program. And during the program, she made a comment that, I'm not really like the rest of you guys. When I was a kid, I didn't really like to go outdoors. I don't like bugs. But the thing is that I'm really curious. So she actually got a job at the age of 16 with Kayak Flint, which is a kayaking program where they do a lot of nature kayaking through some woodland spaces, and had never really had an opportunity. Said, I don't like to be outside. Did this, and now from that introduction was able to then turn this into action by being part of this leadership group. So curiosity piqued. And then my last story is, this is one of our councilwomen from the city of Flint. I met her last night, and I had a whole long conversation with her about how she also said, I'm not a parks person. I'm not a bug person. Didn't even really like to go outdoors, but I moved into a community and this park was across from me. And I was called to action because I saw this park. I had a community connection. From there, she got education through our Keep Genesee County Beautiful program. From that, she became a city councilwoman and now is the park adapter for this park. And as of about a month ago, for the city of Flint, turned the month of July into Parks and Recs month, where they're doing stewardship projects in all the city Flint parks for the month of July. So starting with that, getting a person introduced, going to education and getting to that action can make huge change. And that's it.
That's fantastic. Yeah, that looks, wow, there's so much to say. We got a few minutes and folks will drop off as they do, but let me squeeze a couple in here. Quickest, easiest one is, what was our muralist's name again?
Yeah, so I'll add it to this presentation so you guys have it on hand too, and I can even get his like email address. But his name is Kevin Burdick. Okay.
I hope that helps. A few questions along this line, and I think just we'll focus on this one because I think it's the soul of the presentation, that this whole outside the box thing. For you as individuals, are there rituals that you particularly enjoy when you're trying to get out of the ordinary? And perhaps even more importantly, since a lot of us are at these groups and teams, are there any institutions that the 4MAR group has, any sort of traditions you have to, so many people are spending their days and years fulfilling the promises of previous programs and their capacity is strained. How do you sort of have a tradition around saying, yes, all of that, and like, how do you till the soil to get new, that was a bad metaphor, but like, how do you get the new ideas flowing as a team, and then a little bit as individuals?
Like Nicole said earlier, we will steal a good idea and then we say, yes, and how can we make that more exciting? We follow trends, like how we got on board with the Flint mural art project. We were like, oh gosh, Nicole, that was an idea of Nicole's for years. And then finally the opportunity for collaboration presented itself. And well, that's, and plus we get really excited about stuff. We focus on things that we get really excited about. And then we're like, oh gosh, wouldn't it be cool if we could do this? And then we find a way to do that or something similar.
So I'd say, from piggybacking off of what Courtney said, the two things that I think we do well is that we listen to our team. So when we have new staff, we are hiring for passion, and we're taking that passion and we're asking them, like, what would your dream be? So like, we have a gentleman who's really excited about trail cams. We're like, well, write us up a proposal on what we could do around trail cams and how that could support 4MAR and help 4MAR. And from that, we're looking at adding like a trail cam video for a thing. So we try to not tell our staff, oh, okay, well, yeah, we tried that. Because we get that all the time. Like, oh yeah, we did that a million times. We always say, okay, well, let's write down all of these ideas. Right. And then we always are keeping a list of possible projects. So it's never like, it's never set in stone. So Courtney said, like, the mural idea was something that might've been on my list for 3 years. The treehouse idea was something that came up and then 3 years later came down the road. It's keeping a wish list going, because what we find is then all of a sudden money comes along, or ideas get even bigger, or a trend hits and you're able to kind of push that into the forefront because you're prepared. And so our administrators kind of know that we have projects in mind kind of all the time. So if they have extra money or an idea, they'll throw it over to us and they're like, what do you guys think? And then spitballing. So like, listen to your team, come up with a list, and then like, don't just be in a silo. Don't be by yourself. Even if that's like your friends or coming to like Stewardship Network conferences. We get so many ideas from going to conferences, from listening to webcasts. It just starts sparking all of that, those juices, and then all of a sudden you come back. So another one of our projects that we didn't talk about is our Arts and Nature project. And so our Art and Nature project is sculptures using found object art. And that came from coming to the Stewardship Network conference. I met, I think his name is Andy McDowell, who works at the Detroit Zoo now. He was showing off all of these like amazing bat houses that were art sculptures. And it just sparked like, oh, we have to do something like that. Met with him, we like spitballed some ideas, and then we were able to find the first amount. It was a placemaking grant to be able to put what we have as the monarch, which is, we call it kind of like the mailbox for the butterfly house. And the gentleman who did it did a secondary one around oak trees for us too, but he thought about all the components of a monarch. And so when you look at it, it's so detailed because he was excited about this natural component. So I think your excitement rubs off
Yeah.
on people as well.
That makes a lot of sense. There's a few more specific questions here. I'll invite you two, if you want to jump in the chat and see if you can knock any out or leave a contact info behind for some details.
Definitely.
But that's tremendous. Thank you very much.
Thank
Okay.
you guys.
We're going to grab just 60 seconds here to wrap up. Folks, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. We are out of time. Thanks for joining us. Hope you enjoyed this. As always, second Wednesday, we'll be back. It falls on October 12th this time. Cool topic. If you have not been accustomed or had a chance to hear about this California 30 by 30 initiative, could be really interesting. There is a pledge on the table. The current administration in California says they're going to conserve 30% of land and coastal waters by 2030, which is wild. We hope there's a lot to do there, and we have a board member, Annie Burke, who's also the executive director of Together Bay Area, who will talk about this. How do you coordinate at this massive scale? Because the challenges there are really something. So she'll be there. This will be a cool thing, I think, for a lot of us to glean lessons from how a lot of us do boundary spanning collaborations. Nicole and Courtney just talked a lot about that. What do you do at a state level where something like California that's big enough to be a world economy? So anyway, this will be a very cool, very different topic for us. We hope to see you there. Registrations for that will open very soon. And that's us. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Nicole. Thank you, Courtney. You are awesome. And Rob Lazinski, the DJ in the back there, keeping everything running. Thanks, man. And we hope to see you next month.